Yeah?
Yes, sir.
I want something from you. Let me get
It will speak of as to who we are,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and because the fact is this, where we have been trying to influence government after government, you do it too, but we haven't gotten that kind of.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that.
So much to write about and the document.
Marva, she's one of our hardest working directors.
Several times.
I know, but in this
I would
capacity.
like you on this side so that we can see the paint.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
All
I
right.
can take my glasses off as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at the Emancipation Village, and at my far right, MP Fitzgerald Hines, we are very grateful to have your presence here. Please.
Thank you very, very much, my dear brother. It is an honor to be in your company as well, especially at this time of great celebration. Thank you.
Your son?
No, this youngster, he is indeed my son, not from my loins, but as a child of Africa, he is my son.
That's so humble of you.
Yes, and I welcome him too.
And my far left here, you are?
Brother Miguel Leone from Jamaica. I came for the celebrations and also for the Pan-African meeting. And what I saw today, Emancipation Day, is one of the biggest events I have witnessed in my life. It's a fantastic event. We have nothing like this in Jamaica celebrating emancipation and liberation.
Oh, so we love that. You heard it. He says nothing like this is in Jamaica. So it's a plus for us. Now I left our best for last. I mean, you are our best in political life, but our lady here, sister.
I'm Marva Sandy. I'm from the Emancipation. No. I'm from the American Heritage Foundation. I'm so excited about this whole event that, you know, and it's Emancipation Day. So I'm from the American Heritage Foundation, and we are indeed happy to have in our company our dear Fitzgerald Hines and our visitor from Jamaica.
Now I heard our dear brother from Jamaica said that he has never experienced such an event. I know, can I ask him how he arrived at that, please? Could I?
And you're speaking to someone, you're speaking to someone who has traveled extensively. I've been to almost every Caribbean island. I studied in Barbados. I practiced law for a while in St. Lucia. I even came to Trinidad in the 1980s and was called to the bar and did cases here. And I've been to many countries in Africa. So if I say something like that, you know, what I experienced today, and I was told that because of the rain, the crowd wasn't as big as previous years. But it was still magnificent for me, and I really honor our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago. What it has meant, because way back in about 1990s, when brothers Obika and other members of NJAC came to Jamaica and was going through the Caribbean to popularize the importance of Emancipation Day. And I was the one in Jamaica who printed a little book, that little book named The Internationalization of Emancipation Day. I was the one who printed it in Jamaica and circulated it in Jamaica and contributed to Jamaica. We celebrate Emancipation Day. It is a public holiday, but it is not of the magnitude as to what I saw in Trinidad today.
We thank you. MP Fitzgerald Hines, I want you to make an endorsement of that statement.
Yes, well, I am proud and I'm not surprised, because many years ago, before this holiday was established, I think in 1986, by George Michael Chambers as a holiday for Trinidad and Tobago. Long before that, our African brothers and sisters, our elders, our ancestors, they recognized August the 1st as a day of liberation. But it was made a public holiday, the first country in the Western Hemisphere so to be named, in Trinidad and Tobago. And there are many other countries without a holiday called Emancipation Day, notwithstanding the presence and prevalence of former people of the enslaved Africans who are in their countries. So that I'm not surprised, and I'm very, very pleased to be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and especially pleased to be a part of this celebration here today. If only because, as we reflect on human history, there are many peoples, and I celebrate the Americans. I was just telling the brother about the Americans, and the sister will tell us more. There are many ethnic groups, many nations of people that existed but no longer exist. And when you consider what we as former enslaved people have been through, for 500 years, the lifeblood of Africa was taken out, torn out, and dispersed to all corners of the world to build it. There are 150 million of us in South America alone. And when you consider all of that, and that we are here today, children of our loins are here today, African children, we have a lot to thank our ancestors and to thank the gods for. And today is an opportunity to recognize that, to celebrate that, and to be thankful for. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you know, MP, I myself am a director of the American Heritage Foundation. And this today, my dear brother, Doctor? I will call him Doctor.
Yes, he is.
Now, this is an unprecedented occasion. And my right here, she's a director also of the American Heritage Foundation. And I know she's burning with passion. Yeah. She made a reasonable error. It wasn't an error a while ago there. She was so entranced with her expression.
I would say she's at one time, I would say at one and the same time, she is a representative of the American Heritage Foundation, and at the same time an enthusiastic participant in the Emancipation celebration and supports the Emancipation committee. So as a consequence, I don't see it as a mistake.
Okay, wasn't a mistake. So now you would now give us your opinion.
I thank you very much, Mr. Hines, for that. Well, as I said, I am from the American Heritage Foundation, and the Americans came here as free people. So we are celebrating emancipation with everybody else. We were not enslaved when we came here. Our ancestors were not enslaved. We came here as free people because we fought for our freedom with the War of 1812. So we are extremely happy to be here. Our history as Americans is a very rich history that was being hidden from the Trinidad and Tobago children and the population for a very long time. So we are here giving information, and what we have discovered is that people are hungry and anxious to get the information. We have discovered today several people visiting our booth at the village who were so excited when they saw the names of the list of names to know that their ancestors were Americans, so that they are of American ancestry. So we have a family tree there, so everyone is excited to put their names and their ancestral names on that family tree that we have here to record this in time, to keep it. So I am so extremely happy to be here and to be in the esteemed company of you gentlemen. Thank you.
There are many people of the world who do not know of the history of the Americans, and I think that there's much to be said, and you all need to do more, say more, let us know, because you were just speaking and it raised every pore in my body. Just to think of the fact that we are still here, you are still here, a proud history coming from all the way from Africa. I think this is an honor indeed. And out of the mouth of babes and sucklings cometh wisdom. We have a youngster in our midst, and I'd be happy for him to tell us how he feels today and how he understands what is happening here today, and speak to the other children of the country. What's your name?
Damani Lukoy.
All right, go ahead, speak loudly.
I would like to say that I find today that it is very nice, but since rain is falling, everybody is trying to get shelter, and there were African drummings, and people dancing. And I like my clothing. I find it looks like African.
Very nice, man. Very nice. Yeah, he said it.
Now, because of the fact that we have a young boy here, I want the country and the world by extension to know that we in the South, as Americans, have had programs earmarked, and last year we had a school essay competition. Each year on a yearly basis, we try to ensure that the public at large understands. So we've had programs meant for the elderly and for youth alike. It is a very, very, MP Hines, this is a very, very demanding task. Many of us, my colleague and myself and others, we work sometimes 24/7 to ensure that we can capitalize on all whom we encounter. We have even went to Suriname. We've had interaction with the army at Jamaica, Grenada, etc. New York also, in New York. So what we've been doing is trying to ensure that we can have an international link. Because as you know that even the Maroons are synonymous, the name is synonymous with that of the Americans. So we have done so much, but sometimes, you know, it is demanding. And I'm happy that we caught you here and in this moment, because our foreparents, apart from doing the agriculture they did, they also were they were very much spiritual in nature, very much so. So you'll find that when they came, they came as the Baptists from America, and it's already, again, deceased Martin Luther King, we were likened to his program, his projects. So we were very much enthused. They tucked us down there at that time in the bushes there. And somehow, you know, I always say, there was not the invention of the telephone as yet. So to my extent, we were very much commando-style people. We wanted to make sure that we maintain our resilience.
Those who first came were fighting men because they fought in the war in 1812.
Yes. We were colonial Marines.
So when they brought them to Trinidad, Brother Miguel, they didn't put them in the city, in the capital city. They pushed them down in the bush, down in Maruga, and set it up in companies. And these Africans stayed and prayed and worked. And here they are today. Isn't that great and beautiful?
I love the three words he said. Stayed and prayed and worked. You know, you are so intelligent. Stayed and prayed and worked. Because we stayed within the confines of our regimental platoons.
I say so because I have discovered from my reading and my observation that there is no problem that confronts African people anywhere in the globe that has not been and cannot be resolved by work and prayer. None. Once we work and we pray, we conquer all confrontation, all impediments.
I would hope, MP Hines, that maybe as we catch you here, that since we are now going to our final moments here, that we will be able to be given that precedence, that honorable area of being able to reorganize our agricultural projects. We have been trying to do so. We activate our cocoa plantations. We've got our vegetables. Continue. I hope that as we terminate now, may God bless you so much.
Before we close, I would like to let the public know and to let our Honorable Minister here know too that recently the American Heritage Foundation met with the Ministry of Education and had a discussion with them to introduce into the curriculum the history of the American people, because for too long it has been the best kept secret away from the population of Trinidad and Tobago and the world at large. So as we're speaking with you here now, and you are representing Parliament, so put in a plug for us there.
The day that appears on the cabinet table, you can be assured of my full support.
Very well.
So all I close by saying,
just before you close, I'm learning this history of American, and why it is outstanding. Just last month, in the month of June, I was in the United States giving a lecture, and the lecture was on George Liele. George Liele fought on the side of the British in that same war. George Liele founded the first Baptist church in Savannah in America. the British, having lost the war, they then sent George Liele to Jamaica, where he continued the Baptist struggle there. So here I am learning from the American side, because you fought on the American side and won. And recently I had to do research on the British side.
British side.
Oh, you fought on the British side.
That's why they were sent to safety away from America.
I see. Oh, you fought on the British side.
Like George Liele.
Like George Liele.
Yes.
And George Liele came to Jamaica, continued his Baptist work to the extent, well, I will need to collaborate with you now to provide you with the history of George Liele. That is fresh in my mind. I just gave a lecture in Georgia in Juneteenth.
Oh, we have
in Juneteenth. And also, the thing about it was his great work that he laid the foundation that 3 out of the 7 national heroes in Jamaica, 3 of them are Baptists, which is as a result of the work of George Liele.
So he too was American by another name.
Yes. What a fantastic.
The word American, as I told you,
yes,
is a creolized version of American.
Yes.
So he was an American, but he ended up in Jamaica, and they ended up in Trinidad. And some went to Nova Scotia in Canada. It's amazing. So all we could say is arise, Africa, arise.
Yes, man.
Emancipation 2018, give God praise. Rastafari.
Never surrender.
Never
you know,
surrender.
one of our songs is never surrender. Never surrender.
Never surrender. We toil in the field for a very long time, but we never surrender. Never surrender. Never surrender. For 40 young years, we walking in the field and we never surrender. Emancipation all. Thank you, man. Beautiful. Nice. It was a pleasure meeting you.
No, this is what records.
I can speak.
To say what?
Come on, Mama, take care. You ever say they right? Come on.
Mama Nisa.
Again, we are at our Emancipation Village, Trinidad Tobago. 2018, is it? 2018.
Correct.
On my immediate right is an icon name hailing from Jamaica. Let me get it correctly. Michael Miguel A. Leone. Leone. Right. Okay, attorney at law.
Yes.
I understand that you have had some travels throughout the world, but now you are not actively involved in law practice. What are your concerns with respect to our history?
Well, my concern, having come here to Trinidad and learn of the Americans, and I am now linking that with George Liele, who also fought on the side of the British and was sent to Jamaica. So I'm learning now that some came to Trinidad, some came to Jamaica, and some went to other places. But the beautiful thing was, when George Liele, who founded the first African Baptist church in Savannah, Georgia, came to Jamaica, he started the church in Jamaica. and he named it the Ethiopian Baptist Church. That was what George Lyle named it. Over time, they have watered it down by calling it the Native Baptist Church. Sometimes they even leave off the word native. But so I am now committed to ensuring that some of these books and the lecture I just gave at the Telfair Museum in Savannah just last month or so, I'm going to make sure that some of those books come to you and we establish that link between Americans here and those descendants who came to Jamaica.
Well, it is imperative. No, it's Americans, M-E-R-I-K-I-N.
K-I-N,
yeah.
American,
yeah.
right.
No,
yes.
the fact is this, that we have touched on a very, very serious area. Because in Trinidad here, when we came here, we were tucked down into the bush areas in our southern part of Trinidad.
Yes.
And they all maintained the configuration of their regimental
Yes.
sectors.
Yes.
As a consequence, they were also given lands, 16 acres each.
Okay.
And so therefore, these lands amounted to so many lands because of people being more than one person belonging to one family. So tell me something. The Maroons in Jamaica.
Yes.
What best you know of them as regard their tradition, as related to the scenario?
The Maroons, they fought the British, and between 1729 to 1735, they signed a treaty. 2 sets of treaty were signed. One with the Windward Maroons and one with the Leeward Maroons were signed, and giving the Maroons certain autonomy and freedom over their land. The British didn't sign those treaties willingly. They were getting licks left, right, and center. The Maroons were defeating them. They could not conquer the Maroons in those bushes. The Maroons were, up to this day, the Maroons are still master of the bushes. You can't beat them in the bush. So the British were forced to sign those treaties and gave concession to the Maroons. The Maroons now, we are in support of the Maroons, Rastafarians, because we are saying in 1962, when Jamaica, when Bustamante and Manley went to England to discuss independence, they did not raise the issue of the Maroons. And they should have, because the Maroons were in an older position than anybody else. We are encouraging the Maroons now to set up their own bank, to set up their own justice system, because technically they are separate from the rest of Jamaica. And the Jamaican government is giving them problems that they don't want them, because the Maroons want to grow ganja for medicinal and other purposes, and they don't want to come under Jamaica auspices at all. They have treaties, they have agreements, contracts with Canada. Canada wants to buy the Maroons, the ganja from Maroons, and Jamaica is stopping it. So the Maroons will become independent. So all these things, my brother, very, very important every time. Well, blessings.
We will continue this on a more serious note.
Yes.
And may God bless you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll keep in touch. I have your card. Blessings to all. One love.
Oh, yo. There's nothing happening.
Come up with some plans and they will do your pandemic. Hey, watch, Mark. saw the goods you have there and he felt that it's a plus to your country. So you could share something. All right.
These are my tenants from Canada. These people coming here. It's my grandson.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Lee. I'm representing Laventille, also Toronto, and me and my whole family here. They came down from Toronto to participate in Emancipation Day because we see that something important to us, because emancipation to us means a lot of things. It's not just one specific day, but it should be every day, because we as a people, we have strayed away from a lot of things and we need to get back to it. Right? So, greetings to Toronto. We were representing Toronto in Trinidad. Emancipation Day.
It was fun. Hey. It was a great experience for us. Well, for myself, I'm going to speak for. It's my first time actually being a part of this, and it was great. I missed half the show, but I can see that it was really, really, really good, and I would definitely come back again. It was awesome. I will be bringing more than this down here from Toronto. The rapper SK, he's here, gonna see a little something. Hey.
Hey, what's up? It's Nigel. You know, been out here in Trinidad. It's a nice experience. First time at this event. I think it's important. You know, a lot of people probably have it backwards in terms of what it is, but I enjoyed it and it was fun. So that's what I feel.
I'm really happy for this occasion. I lived 42 years in Toronto,
and it's the first time I have been to Emancipation celebration. I missed the parade because I like drumming so much. I always ballet dance and all these things. I miss the drumming, but you know what? Next year, please God, we will be back and we will be on time. So I want to say hello to everyone. Okay.
Today, everyone's at Lamport Stadium. Yes. You're missing Panalive. Hey, how you feel?
Panalive was when
Panalive? Oh, it's today. Okay. Well, we didn't see anything. We see all the beautiful clothing and all the demonstration was so nice. The dancing, the Moko Jambi and all that. It was very exciting to what we see.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Oh my God.
We see land of Pan and Calypso. To miss Pan is like we missing part of ourselves.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you, thank you.
Hello, my name's Sarah.
My aunt's right there. You see something?
Hello, I'm from Brampton, Canada.
He's from Brampton.
This is my family. This is my mom, my grandpa, and my grandma back there.
You talk properly.
And yeah.
We had fun. We had fun. It was great. Thank you. You want us to talk? We're good. Oh, you want to talk? Can I say something? Say Happy Emancipation Day.
Happy Emancipation Day.
Yay!
Yay!
Great. Thank you.
Toby, give up.
a summons to lingering spirits of the dead, ancestors forgotten, with solutions, formulas, recipes, lyrics already written for us to heal and harm, build and destroy, lessons unlearned by years of loss and legacies of lies and illiteracy and incarceration and ignorance and uninspired miseducation, experimentation, manipulation, so we won't want to read, so we won't want to write, so we won't seek to understand what happened to us, who happened to us. But we remember, facing these songs, these poems, these rhymes, and these hymns, thanks to each other, we will never forget. We have memorized the words. We suggest you do the same.
I remember you from
We are Young Gifted and Black from Oakland, California. Thank you.
Could the driver of PDD 215, Mr. Kevin Foster, you all know the wonderful works that he has brought to the village. Mr. McKeven Foster doing for us, we fighting.
Tell every fighter, all I want to hear you say is, we fighting, we fighting. I'm fighting, we fighting. Ready? One, get ready to sing. Two, get ready to sing. One, two. Everybody start to sing, let me hear we fight. We fighting, we fighting. We fighting, we fighting. We fighting, we fighting. Never know. There's a serious problem going through my day. Another serious matter. I just can't take. Oh no, I just can't take this rain. Oh no, tell me who's to blame. Somebody ball and pray. One serious right now, straight down my face. Oh no, I just can't take this rain. Oh no, tell me who's to blame. I've been fighting this since small. It's the same nothing going on. Oh no, what is going on? We've been fighting this since small. It's the same nothing going on. Oh no, oh no. We fighting, we fighting. We fighting, we fighting. We fighting, we fighting. We fighting, we fighting. Many reasons to stop us this time. Cause throughout this nation, there are so much problems. Oh no, I just can't take this rain. Oh no, tell me who's to blame. When you call on my call, he shall not fail you at all. Let me see, help you reach the problems that we embrace. We are all to blame. In his name, let's not play this game. We've been fighting this since we small. It's the same that's been going on. Oh no, what is going on? We've been fighting this since we small. It's the same that's been going on. Oh no, oh no. We fighting, we fighting.
Commander.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm welcome to Mr. Nairobi.
All right. I'm sure you're feeling, but I know you're looking real good, and I just wish you all could look like this every day. The song I'm about to sing started off as a solidarity song with our brothers and sisters in the USA experiencing the racism and all that goes with it. And then it started out also being a song about how we treat each other as well. The name of the song, Black Lives Matter. Hope you enjoy. I look around the world today, and in conclusion I've got to say that human life has little value. Right there in America, and right here, my brother, my sister, interfere the black lives I see, violence is true. Random killing of black men each day, and with that boy, gathered away, and it looks like another week of life all over. Rumors of biowarfare, interference everywhere, dying every day because of hate. We still need hope. Black Lives Matter is not a catchphrase or a slogan, or just some slang that I use. Black Lives Matter, you can use it or refuse it or condemn it, however you choose. Just remember, take it down. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives, Black Lives. Way back in history, the records are there for all to see. Authors of civilization, science, technology, world leaders in medicine, astronomy, arts, philosophy, culture, religion, and all facets of life of humanity. The middle passage didn't stop. Black excellence rising to the top. As inventions coming and coming non-stop. The light bulb, telegraph, blow dryer, blood bank, and the elevator. Cell phones, AC, fire extinguisher, and 100 more to make life better. So hear me now, Black Lives Matter is not a catchphrase or a slogan or a marketing slang that I use. Black Lives Matter, you can use it or refuse it or condemn it, however you choose. Just remember, try to keep back in the way to justify evil to do and say, and keep the children of Africa slaves for yet another day. Brainwashing generation with false and foolish conviction in an attempt to suppress self-esteem and regeneration. Emasculating the black man each day, so now the children going astray with a bunch of divided and picked by tribal rebels. With a man-to-debate philosophy program with self-hate and its unity, expecting us to self-destruct and die, but the plan will not the fire. So help me now, Black Lives Matter. It's not a catchphrase or a slogan, or just gonna stand and die. Black Lives Matter. You can use it, or refuse it, or condemn it, however you choose. Just remember the fact. Black Lives Matter. In the classroom, in the schoolyard, on the pavement, and in the hospital. Black Lives Matter. In the station, in the courthouse, in the prison, and even on remand yard. Black Lives Matter. Up Lavanti, down in Beaton, in San Fernando, and all over Trinidad and Tobago. Black Lives Matter. In Guyana, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, and all over the Caribbean. Black Lives Matter. Up in New York, in Toronto, in London, and all over the world. Black Lives Matter. You can use it, or refuse it, or even condemn it, however you choose. Just remember. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nairobi, ladies and gentlemen, PRO, following
our emancipation. Long live the name of Brother. From what I understand, the veteran died before he ever got to see the fruits of his labor. But you know that's the stage we're at. Every man coming to give, each one teach one. So the future can be a little brighter. So this is a song that I wrote. And it's about getting that no one man has a monopoly on knowledge. You know, we all brothers and sisters, every man and woman on their path. And we gotta learn to respect that. Yaga, 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 yo. Massive thanks to the Emancipation support committee, That don't sound that good. Have you had a good day today? All right. Now I know it was really a good day. And I want you all to welcome all our guests on stage, coming from the Caribbean, coming from Ocean State in Nigeria, coming from the African Union in Ethiopia, coming from Ghana. We think that they deserve a big round of applause because here they have joined us as part of our celebration in 2018. So let us give them a big round of applause again. Let us show them that we appreciate them coming to share with us. Every Emancipation Day, we know that we should always be grateful. As a people, we should always find ways to say thanks for those who have served our people, whether they have served us in Trinidad and Tobago, or the Caribbean, or whether they have served us on the continent of Africa, or in the United States. Wherever people give service to one of us, or some of us, they give service to all, and therefore we try to honor them no matter where they have put their effort. And this evening, we are going to provide tokens of appreciation in the form of awards to 3 of the persons who are here on the stage with us this evening. So you have already been introduced to them. Now we are going to move into the business of awards. Let me have the first one. I'm going to hand you over to Ms. Springer again. To Sister Entu, I apologize. You're going to put me on stage. All right, our Sister Entu, and she is going to read a citation for this first award, which will you all be presented.
Okay, now this award goes to an elder in our East Dry River Belmont community. She's Mrs. Patricia Crossley. She's a community activist from Belmont, very involved with the welfare and development of young people in our community. She has been a long-standing member of the Emancipation Support Committee. She volunteers her time, especially at this period of the festival that involves so much work. So, let us honor one of our own. Let us honor an elder, a stalwart, a lover of our people who works tirelessly with their interests. So I will hand the mic over to my brother so that he will say a few words and give the award to Ms. Patricia Crossley.
Welcome, sister. Welcome. So here you have one. Entu has given you the background. I am going to read what is the award that is being presented to our sister. And I'm going to read it for you. We are presenting to our sister Patricia Crossley the Spirit of Emancipation Award in recognition of community service and building of the commemoration of emancipation. As I hand the award to her, which she will show to you, I want you to give her a show of your approval and a round of applause in appreciation. Very pleased to present this to you, Ms. Crossley.
chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the African Union is one of the most meaningful institutions that we have within the global African community at a governmental level. Because the African Union brings together all the governments of Africa, and we are constantly trying to ensure that through the African Union and CARICOM, a gap can be bridged for our people to help in our people's progress. And the deputy chairperson, who is a strong historian in his own right, a scholar, an intellectual, and also one who is very committed to the progress of our people globally. He has that Pan-African ideology and spirit. So it is not just because of the office that he holds, but because of intellect, because of character, and because of commitment, that we are pleased to present to His Excellency Kwesi Kwartey, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Emancipation Support Committee presents, my eyes are not that big, the Spirit of Emancipation Award, and it goes to His Excellency, our brother, Kwesi Kwartey. The brother has a brief message to you from the African Union Commission that he's deputy chair of. So he'll show you the award, and if you are satisfied with the message, he keeps the award. If you say you are dissatisfied with the message, I don't know what we will do. But we pass the message on to our brother Kwesi Kwartey. You know how confident I am that you will totally appreciate a message coming to us from the highest levels of administration on the continent of Africa. Because this is not just his message, a message from the institution. So listen carefully and show your appreciation. Thank you very much.
Continue to develop this shared history of struggle and we stand determined to transform this painful history through this unique relationship of unity and turn it through the natural mystic of positive vibration to bring our people peace and development and the struggle for reparations for slavery. We would like to thank the Pan-African Network and all other related groups for all their commitment and hard work towards bringing us together here today as one people in the Caribbean island of Trinidad. Our Caribbean brothers left Africa's shores in chains against their will, and through blood, sweat, and tears have built wealth for other people. But today, the African Union, with the support of the African people, are determined to turn the door of no return to a door of welcome, return, repatriation, reintegration, and reparations. That is the way our Caribbean Pan-African Network, that is why our Caribbean Pan-African Network has been designated by the African Union to join the General Assembly of the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, as an ex-officio member. The African Union today is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our brethren and our sisters in the Caribbean in the commemoration of Emancipation Day here in Port of Spain, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago today. On this sacred day, August 2018, I have the unique privilege and pleasure to convey to you the fraternal greetings of all your brothers and sisters in the African motherland. We wish to renew to you once again our abiding solidarity and friendship. The African Union's recognition of the diaspora as Africa's sixth region is an idea whose time has come. And no force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. We are determined to transform the door of no return into a door of welcome, of reintegration, of Pan-African solidarity, integrity, unity and diversity, and the door of reparations for the crimes of the transatlantic slave trade. God bless our Caribbean brethren. God bless Africa. One love. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, my brother, so that you can know that this reward is presented on behalf not just of the Emancipation Support Committee, but all of us. So is this an award presented on behalf of all of us? All right.
I want our brother to know that the main quarter survives largely in Tobago as Carti. We have big Carti families who know that their original name is Quarti. And we thank you for your address. We have the Spirit of Emancipation Award of Excellence to present to His Excellency Ron Arabissola, Governor of Osun State in Nigeria. A big round of applause. We thank you and your lovely wife for coming to share this occasion with us. And I will turn to our chair for the camera to make the presentation.
Thank you, Sister Entu. And I will tell you what makes this very special for us.
In 2013, a governor of a state in Nigeria who did not even know us before, but we wrote to him asking him to have some of his people as part of Emancipation. And as a result of that, a delegation from Osun State came here to participate in our business symposium. And in addition, he sent a cultural troupe. Unfortunately, because of the difficulties that Africans have coming into this country, their arrival was delayed and they did not get here until the night of August 1st, 2013. Nevertheless, we organized for them and they performed in Woodford Square, they performed in Ozanville Square in Tunapuna and a few other places. So we are very, very grateful to that spirit of cooperation that this governor of Osun State has. So we are very, very pleased to present him with this award on this occasion. So, Governor Aregbesola, it's a pleasure we want to present you with this award. And I know the photographers want to get a look at it as well. I will hand over the microphone so he can respond to the award.
I recognize the chairman of the Emancipation Support Group, Mr. Kavra Kamon and his wife. That group, the committee, must have worked extremely hard to have a beautiful parade and the glorious performance of several groups that we have had here today. I salute you. I will recognize the eminent personalities that are here. All of you from Leone, from Barbados, from several other parts. I greet you as I greet my African sisters and brothers. It is a huge joy to walk with you today. I enjoy every bit of the parade. The passion exhibited by everybody, young and old, women and men, all was extraordinary. I salute the spirit of love, the spirit of joy, the spirit of community that you all displayed all through the length of the parade. And I will carry that spirit with me for as long as I live. As I appreciate this award, what I must say is that we must together economically strengthen our people. As I appreciate your color, as I appreciate the zeal and passion with which we walk the parade, I want to be part of you to economically empower our people so that in no distant future, wealth, which is the heritage of the black, will be here as much as it will be in the continental Africa. I had a discussion yesterday with one of us, and he told me, and I believe him, if Africans understand money the way it should be understood, there will be no single poor black man in the world. After all, the man that shipped gold, the man that made gold, that made gold to lose its value, worldwide was an African. His name was Masa Kankan Musa. If Kankan Masa Musa could manipulate gold in a way that its value dropped for all time, Africans must understand what money is and must master it to be the wealthiest people on the surface of the earth. I'm going to work with you to bring prosperity not only to you but to people on the continental shelf of Africa. I too want to reciprocate your kind gesture of this award by extending to you our own little gifts to commemorate this wonderful exercise that you annually do. I have here a symbol of the greatness of our people as a race. The Africans produced this egg at a time that the knowledge of mythology was not even in the West. It is called Oleoloku. Frobinus, a German archaeologist, pulled it out of the earth in Leone. This is a replica of it. I have presented to the Emancipation Support Group as our own sign of appreciation and commitment to your work. In appreciation of the amazing work that you and your wife are doing here, we present this to you personally. I'll present this carving to your wife. Is she here? Mrs. Cameron, thank you for your amazing sense of commitment to us as a race. Mr. Cameron has done so well that we cannot appreciate him enough. I know you appreciate him, but as a sign of our deep appreciation of his labor of love, the highest medal that our state normally awards to whoever is eminent is hereby awarded to Mr. Cameron Cameron. My state has its own anthem. It's Yoruba, but we have the English translation. The plaque I'm holding carries the Yoruba version of our anthem as a state and the English translation of it. We believe it to make sense if in the office of the Emancipation Support Group, this is put there to forever remind members of that group or committee of our presence in 2018 Emancipation Day. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Governor Aribosola from Osun State in Nigeria. The gifts we have had will be eternally appreciated, not only by the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, but all the people with an African consciousness in Trinidad and Tobago. And next time you come to our headquarters, you are going to see these gifts very prominently displayed at the headquarters of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say as well, we have one thing more in store for the governor. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at the Yoruba village, there is a plaque that we are going to have unveiled by the governor of Osun State in memory of his visit to this country. So 10 a.m. tomorrow morning at the Yoruba Village Square. Those of you who don't yet know it, it is at the eastern end of Port of Spain, right where you turn up to go around the bridge. We hope come down to the end of Independence Square and join us as the governor unveils a plaque in memory of his visit. So we look forward to seeing you there 10 a.m. tomorrow. And let me just talk about another person on the platform. He has been here several times for emancipation, and we always call him Brother David Commission. He's from Barbados. Now, we have to be a little more careful how we refer to him. In private, we say Brother David, but in public now, we say His Excellency, because he is now the ambassador of Barbados to CARICOM. So I just want him to rise up and be applauded by all of you who have heard him speak here. His Excellency, Brother David Commission, ambassador to CARICOM. And between this brother and the new Prime Minister of Barbados, who is a woman, you're going to see some change come about in CARICOM. So thank you for giving my brother another round of applause.
Thank you very much, Governor of Osun State, for being so generous in receiving our award. We thank you. I want to let you know that Osun is one of the beloved Himalayas in Trinidad and Tobago, where the Ifa practice is very, 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 very strong. And in fact, we have an Osun festival here, which is celebrated annually at one of our rivers. So the links are there and they are strong. Okay, well, We want to get back to our performances, and we have a group called Lion Soul. And His Excellency, our brother David Thomas Young, this group is out of Barbados. They, in fact, just returned from a tour of Cuba, and the leader of the group says, Africa is the center of our consciousness. And I say, Africa must be the center of our consciousness. It's who we are, it's who we are, it's who we must love if we must love ourselves. Music for development, music for liberation, Lion Soul. And if we can get some, okay, so bring them on with a big round of applause, Lion Soul.
Take me out of Africa, but you can't take Africa out of me. From Barbados, we bring you greetings, Trinidad, and we salute the soldiers that has made this Emancipation Day possible throughout the world. Brothers and sisters, honorable delegates, Lion Soul, and our beautiful sister, Lisa.
Life is sometimes
position in my life. And I give you thanks in the ancestral realms that you may continue doing what you does best. And now we shall go into the reggae groove with a chant we call Black Lives Matter. unite with our motherland, Africa. Because especially in North America and Europe, they are still hunting and shooting us down as chattel slaves, even though our liberation has been, as the mother said, 108 years. So we have to form that union that we can have collective security. Black Lives Matter. Trinidad Emancipation. Soldier and cultural crew, we salute you. Hello! Hello, TNT! The whole stadium is empty. Hello, TNT! I only hear you a little bit alone. Hello, TNT! Oh yeah. And see how beautiful this sister is? Well, yeah, here, nothing here. Okay. She's going to do the national anthem, Redemption Song, for African people globally. Put your hands together for Lisa Griffiths.
So
herself, she's my daughter. And when she don't behave herself, she is still my daughter. Because we got to work and invest in the youth. And you know, when working with youths, it won't be always sunshine. Because young people think that we born big. But that is another story. Emancipation people, soldiers. How great, how beautiful, how marvelous that match was this morning. Give your hands a round of applause for braving the weather. Give your hands a big round of applause. Because everybody always has something else to do when it comes time for our own liberation. We can fight in everyone's war and take part in everyone's conflict. But when coming to our own liberation, the journey is the journey, and we will take the journey, because this is what we have pledged our lives to. Our final song this evening is called Cry for Life. Because when we look at the international propaganda, everywhere they are portraying as Africa is always conflict and bloodshed. And yet in every African country where there is conflict and bloodshed, there is numerous resources. Resources left, right and center, if used for the development of Africa, the whole world will be a different world. But the time is now, and we are ready to stand and be counted. Cry for life.
We are at the Emancipation Village, Trinidad Tobago. At my left is our honorable friend hailing from Sierra Leone, the mighty Amadou Masale. And he is a man who loves TNT. He hinted me a secret. He may want to be here more than any other country in the world in the time to come. However, brother, you are here again. And you are in our booth here, the American booth. And may I ask you, put you on a spot, what is your take of the American as you see us through your eyes in Trinidad?
Very unique group of people. But I want to tell you a little bit about my connection to the Americans, or how I think I'm connected to the Americans. I am from Sierra Leone, West Africa. Freetown, capital city. Now, we know that people from Sierra Leone were taken against their will to the northern colonies of America. Those people, some of them became what we know today as Gullahs.
Gullahs?
Yes. Now, some of the Americans are descendants of those Gullahs because the term American itself evolved from African Americans or Africans in America who fought alongside the British in the War of 1812. And after the war, the Brits lost. But the Africans that fought alongside them were taken to 3 different places. Nova Scotia in Canada was one, and the Bermuda Islands, and the 3rd place was here in Trinidad and Tobago, starting from around mid-1814, 16, 15, yeah, right? So, because I know some of those Gullahs were Sierra Leoneans, historically, and because I know a Gullah lady whose parents became American, Tina Dunkley is her name,
yes,
took her own DNA test not too long ago, and it points to Sierra Leonean ancestry. So that is how I'm connected to you in some way, shape, or form as a Sierra Leonean and you American. Now, I'm not saying all 100% of those Americans who came here have Sierra Leonean ancestry, but I know some did, based on history, and then based on this book here. Can you hand me the book, please, sir? So I could show Tina Dunkley's book. The author of this book about the Americans, it's a very interesting read, short, concise, but very has a lot of information. Yeah. And Tina Dunkley, the author of this book, Tina Mary Dunkley, had taken a DNA test and it points to Sierra Leone. So that backs the theory, the history, that indeed Sierra Leoneans were taken from West Africa in a small island called Bones Island in Sierra Leone. They were brought to America. They fought alongside the Brits, they lost, and some were brought here and they became Americans. So that is how we're connected first and foremost. And like I told you earlier, I think you guys are a very peculiar group of African Americans or Trinbagonians. But
I love that.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking to you via this camera about my Sierra Leonean connection, and you too, Tessa, about my Sierra Leonean connection to the Americans, or vice versa. Yeah.
I must indeed say that I met our dear friend here approximately 2 or so years ago, and what I found with him, he has a constant passion. You see him, when he doesn't see you, he still has a passion. He meets people for the first time, he's always able to be spontaneous. I want to know something. I know you have enlisted me within a very serious chat program on the social network, and I see in that a very great possibility in ensuring that in a futuristic sense that our African diaspora would be somewhat mended, for want of a better word, or would be treated with a greater respect up the road. To what extent you see it unfolding, especially in the light now I see where there is the youth symposium is now taking place in America with respect to the African youths. How, I say a lot there, but how could you sufficiently give us some form of explanation as to what is your expectation in that light?
Well, that's a tough one, because I don't see, first of all, in all of this that I've been around these past few days, I see a big void within the youth and the community, if you will, in terms of emancipation. What do I mean by that? Well, when I look at the Emancipation Support Committee, there is some youth, but I don't see enough. There are more elderly people like myself, that are involved in some of the planning and or executing of the plan. Now, if we can try to fill that void, it'll be a great way to do it. But also, we don't have to wait for elders as youth. We don't have to wait for elders to come and lead us sometimes. Sometimes within the youth, we find youth leaders who can mobilize their compatriots into doing things with regard to global development. And I think that connecting back the youth of the Caribbean, for example, to the youth of Africa has a lot of mileage, if you will, because, I mean, they're the future, and the mistakes that guys like us have made globally as people of color should not continue on. So we hope that the youth can open up their eyes to the new possibilities, and guys like us are around to pave the way, make sure that they're guided in some way, shape, or form towards what we aim for as a people worldwide.
Now, you said worldwide. I have had the opportunity to witness or to hear or to see on the network a youth from your country by the name of Piccolo. And he made a very interesting statement that overshadows the statements I've heard made by the alleged adults. He said something. He said, not verbatim, but he said when people are into corruption sometimes, or corrupt practice, they can ferment into, for want of better words, he can ferment into being, it's like wine. When you become fermented into a corrupt practice, it becomes difficult. And I want to believe that you have touched the nail on the head. We need to ensure, for one, I'm very happy to always get his comments on the system. And you being a person as a guiding figure, do you see yourself being able to do something to act as a catalyst for our young people, not just within Trinidad or Africa or even the world over, as a catalyst?
The catalyst in what sense? I like to think catalytically, if you will, but I don't know. I mean, some of the things I do, youth are welcome to participate in, and sometimes I've gone consciously looking for youth empowerment, youth activity, but you can only do so much. It has to be, some of these things have to come from within the youth community themselves to drive us elders into a particular direction as opposed to the other way around. Because many a times also we know where, especially politicians, have used the youth to their own self-interest versus the national or global good.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the direct response to your question is that some of these things you have to let the youth themselves drive it, but we're always here to support, and we also try to open up ways where they can step in and fill in our shoes, if you will. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're happy to do that.
Now, at present, I think sometime during this week, there is supposed to be an African Youth Symposium commencing in the Americas, in the United States. I saw it 2 days ago. Do you see it as being a profitable potential program, or how do you see it as being able to capitalize on ensuring that our youths in Africa more so can get onto the system to have a more positive future?
Well, I don't know about the particular program you're talking about, so I can't speak to it. But I know there have been quite a few programs where youth from my country, Sierra Leone, have come to the United States on programs, fellowships. So that sort of thing, I mean, those sort of things do happen. I'm not sure the extent to which they have been implemented in a country. So, for example, if a youth comes to a particular program and gains some competencies, whatever they may be, does he take it back? And if so, how, what happens when he takes it back? Those are the kinds of things that we really need to look into. So we don't just come to these events just to come sick or for come sick. Let's take this carnival, for example, Emancipation Day. There have been some festivities around, but they have guys upstairs working hard, talking about a reparation agenda for the entire African diaspora, So those kinds of things are happening. There is some fanfare, yes, but we have to move beyond this momo jumpy stuff, yes, and focus more on how we really drive our people, our nation, and the rest of the world forward, really. That's what we're about, or we aspire to be one of those guys or some of those people who bring positive change to the world by doing these little things like talking to you right now in Trinidad and Tobago as an ordinary Sierra Leonean.
Now, I want to believe that what you've said, they have just touched the nail on the head. Because we are in this American boot here, back tower, and amongst us here, you have the history how we have been brought here, but at present we want to kind of show ourselves, we want to get more involved in the economic sense, because we have been involved in our indigenous cocoa plantation operations, then the rice plantation, the hill rice, we call it the Creole rice, But what we want to do, we want to do some measure of resuscitation, which we believe on our own we can't do it completely as we could. So as you can see on our large booth here, we have samples of some of our stuff there. We have the rice, we have etc. We have what do we have again there? What do we have up on the rice? We have the pumpkins, all kinds of stuff.
You have things here that I've seen in Sierra Leone.
All right. We also have some of the artifacts. We have artifacts also. Artifacts, we have all those. As a matter of fact, right here at this forum here, there are two private museums. One of our sisters there, her name is Roberts, Leone Roberts. She's a granddaughter of a famous figure in Trinidad who died some years ago. His name is Papa Niza. And she has a private...
Papa Niza's daughter?
No, she granddaughter, yes. She's somewhere there. Leone's, where are you? Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Also, I have my private museum here from home. So what we are trying to do is to have some consciousness. You said something a while ago. To know where we are going, we must have some measure of concern for where we came from, our history.
Yes.
And what we have sort of bonded with the National Library Services, NALIS, also the National Archives, and a lot of NGO bodies. What we are finding difficult is to ensure that we can have affirmative commitments from our youths. This is the area we want to. As you see, there are a few youths here, a sprinkling of them. And today, it's unprecedented, it's a milestone to have you in our booth here. No, honestly, saying that, I want you now to tell us, knowing the background of our rice plantation, our cocoa plantations, and knowing that we need to resuscitate it, to what extent you believe you can be subscribed in a partnership program. I'll put you on a spot.
That's okay, but I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, what I was saying earlier with regard to move beyond the fanfare, I'm looking at ways where we can do trade and investments in each other's country, or in the Caribbean and Africa, because I am not xenophobic per se, but when I see others come into our countries in Africa and they invest and they gain from investing in Africa, and then I look at our African diaspora who basically have the right to come back and invest in their own motherland, yeah? I don't see enough of that. It bothers me a bit. I'll give you a typical example of one of these things. Look at the African attire that I saw here today at this carnival, at the Emancipation Day celebrations. 80 to 90% of them that I see is not authentic from an African sense. So when you bring these things from those blue people's countries and they bring them into a place like this, it does two things. Number one, it waters down my culture, and I don't like that. Secondly, it takes away funds that should be coming to Africans or people of African descent, but yet it's going to people from those blue countries.
Well said.
And that bugs me a bit. That is why I try to wear authentic African attire every time I'm around here, and I bring some sometimes every now and then so that people can see that, hey, it's not about this, pseudo-African stuff.
Yes,
Let's do the real deal. But there's a cost factor. I understand the economics behind that, because not everyone can afford a decent African attire. But also, as Africans, we have different levels of attire that can work here, that people can afford here. So we need the people to understand that don't let they water our culture down further than they've already done. And secondly, let's keep our monies within our communities. I can't go to those blue countries and set up a factory, make their clothes and sell their clothes in their mass. I can't do that. So I don't appreciate them coming here. Even in Africa, they do it, doing these types of things. And that may be personal, but yeah, I thought I'd express it tonight.
No, the thing is this, no, the time must come for us to be optimistic in a futuristic sense. And what you've just said there reminds me is the most salient point to date in this short interview, where we must have a consciousness of who we are, because I know that there is unlimited even natural resources in Africa, and I'm going beyond my but I think I could say it, where multi-corporations merely they plunder, for want of a better word, and even some of the personnel in the hierarchical positions, because of easy access to funds, they may fall prey to this falsehoodness, which, as I was saying a while ago, with Piccolo, what he said, is so difficult when one has become ripened into corrupt practice. So I know this is a very, very controversial matter, and I want to honestly hope that this could just only be a part one, what is happening here.
Yeah,
you know,
because we don't want to mess this nice interview with corruption discussion.
Yes.
We'll find some other time for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as we are here right now, before we kind of make a closure, the gentleman on the other end, whose name is Hollis Clifton, apart from being a videographer, he has constantly been a partner with our American diaspora here, right?
American movement.
You could recall Marva. Marva is somewhere here. Marv. And Leone's. Leone's actually, they have worked very hard. Leone's is a granddaughter of Papa Nisa, I told you, right? Marva has played a pivotal role from inception. I'm coming. Dawn is the best for last. Dawn has been our youth personnel who does all the not dirty work, but the hard work to ensure that from his youth perspective, he can put things in place to facilitate the upwardness of the American. It is very difficult when one has to operate from a voluntary basis, you know. Okay. So here it is, we have key people, and you saw Achilles here a while ago. Yeah. You know, and interestingly enough, we have worked with our, as I told you, the National Library. We have worked with the National Archives and many other NGOs in the country. Not because they are government, state organizations. But what we need to do, as I know we have gotten your word that you are going to do your best to ensure that we can reach somewhere that is useful. Tell us, do you think we can have arranged some program where there can be not a homecoming, but an activity where we can come to your country at a national occasion, or an occasion where we can share ideas that can come to fruition to help us optimistically be involved for the future?
Yes, a big yes. I don't even want to say much more. Yes.
All right. She's saying yes, you see? So, again, yeah, she have a question.
Come into the picture.
So, Amadou.
You can just turn it off now.
Amadou, I'm so happy to meet you. Thanks to Uncle Cohen. This is my first year at this event and knowing about the Americans. So I don't know very much, but I have to agree with us Africans here in Trinidad, Trinidad-born Africans and probably Tobagonians, not expressing and behaving the way Africans in Africa and African-type countries would behave. And I strongly believe that is because that is what we were born into. I mean, I'm sure you have kids, and this is your attire. Yes. So your kids more than likely would dress like you, or fancy, or even fancier. But if you know what I mean,
I know what you mean.
It's instilled in them. That's what they're seeing. That's what they're breeding. It doesn't matter price. I think what matters is how you were brought up. So, having said all of that, my question is, could arrange, I think it's probably added to what Uncle just said, could you, in your country, make arrangements inside of us coming to Africa, make it mandatory? We need it. We need to go over there. Yes. We need to be over there. We need to see things. We need to learn things. We need to get brainwashed a bit and really see what it is like. Because that's the only way of feeling. I had to feel something to be something. Yes. You know, not that I don't believe that I'm an African, but whatever I see here is what, you know, Trinidad is multi everything. Yes. So I'm asking if you all could, like, you know, include a contingency of young persons that are interested, you know, in understanding a little more about where we came from.
Right, absolutely.
No. And to really make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's a catch to this, and I talked about that yesterday at the business symposium, because if you look at the Trinidadian, Trinbagonian populace, the Africans, descendants of Africans in this country, these twin countries, you can see that there is a void, right? We talk about Pan-Africanism, yes, and I agree with all that. But guess what? I don't think that's sustainable. When we talk, say, Pan-Africa, Africa as a whole, it works to some extent, but it's not sustainable. If I can tell this guy that he is from Sierra Leone because his DNA shows that, like Tina Dunkley's DNA says she's Sierra Leonean. Now, if she was naturally, she would gravitate more towards Sierra Leone than Cameroon or Nigeria or Ghana. See, and she can go to Sierra Leone and do things within an African community because she knows where her ethnicity is from. To me, that has more meaning. That's more sustainable. So I focus on the accuracy of the history, and if it's supported with things like DNA that are kind of have their own issues, if you will, but have been used to identify ethnic groups that the person might belong to, then for me, I'm all for that. But I wouldn't want to take a Cameroonian descendant, for example, to Sierra Leone under that false pretense, saying, you see what I'm saying? Yes. That's important to me, and it should be important to the people who also are going to Africa, understanding that, okay, we can still visit other countries in Africa, but when we go to this particular country, because that's where my ancestors come from, it's a different kind of feeling. So yeah, I sell that a lot. Okay. But I sure would love to take you. I'm going to claim you anyway as Sierra Leonean, regardless what the DNA says. Yes. But the DNA aspect is an important thing in these Caribbean countries, in America, United States of America, to make sure we identify who we are, because not all African countries, for example, participated in the slave trade to the Americas or even on the eastern side. Yeah, not all African countries. There are 54 countries in Africa, and maybe not more than 20, I'm just guessing this, participated directly in the slave trade itself. It could be more, but not all countries.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
Well, we have Marva, is critical that Marva. Could we have Marva come and...
But I'm sweating, man. I'm sweating in your country.
Right, yeah, very good.
Hot.
Marva, I call you on air.
No, it's going to edit some of this, right?
Okay. Yeah, he edited. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. Sorry. Okay. We have Amadou. Yes, after our short break, the place is very, very hot. We are back on the set. In our presence is a young lady who is in fact director, hard-working director, Marva Sandy. She's one of our plant experts personnel. She also specializes in unique preparation of our American dishes. Marva, please, let us know.
What would you like to know, Kerwin?
We want to know what you do as an American.
To keep the American history alive, I should say I'm recently retired. So in my home now I am entertaining any group who would like to visit the American country, as I call it, and I feed them. After the tour and after all the information is given, they are fed from my delicious dishes that I learned to prepare for my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother, the way Americans prepare the dishes. And everyone is always well satisfied and promised to return to enjoy the delicious dishes that were served to them.
Now, as you see, we have commenced our part 2 with a lady in our midst. She mentioned the word tour, T-O-U-R, tour. What is actually meant, Amadou? We have been able to engineer, despite our few of us, being a few of us, we have been able to engineer attention. Our National Trust Organization, amongst other entities, have been able to, we had a trial run last year, and they saw where we were able to have people come and give them a tour. So Leone's, Marva and myself we were the tour guides yesterday. And one of the things we were trying to do is to help to restore some of the buildings, more so a building where our foreparents would have had paid all their cards towards their death benefits. And this is a building where we are working very hard. It's one of the few buildings, if not maybe the only one of its kind that exists in our country. And we have gone beyond the call of duty, Amadou. Sometimes it's very, very time consuming. You know, it takes you out from your family, direct family concerns. But what we are making efforts to ensure that that building is not demolished. And that building has the records of our foreparents from way back when, Amadou.
The building is 84 years old. The building is 84 years old, and there are records there from as far as old as 84 years old. And what we are doing, some time ago, last year, Kerwin and I were involved in some classes at the National Archives, where we have learned where we were taught how to restore and how to keep records, old records. And so we have embarked on that project with the Friendly Benevolent Society in Princestown in Indian Walk to restore their records and to show them how to keep it, because there are some that is being destroyed with silverfish and other things, and weather. So we are embarking on that project now, how to show them, to guide them as to the restoration of their records and how to store them properly.
Now, Amadou, now this is very, very critical, what she has just said there. We have found that attention is now being drawn by other personnel apart from Princestown. And I want to thank even Marva. Akila is out there, outside, in a small booth. And as you can see, the few of us are here. I thank you, Amadou, for sharing with us. And I hope that this part 2 will be some part 3 in some time to come. But we have certainly been very grateful towards our community at large for sharing with us at that occasion yesterday. And we thank you. And some of the people we want to thank, Amadou, is I will repeat again as best as I could, the Trinidad Tobago Library Nalis, called Nalis, for being there for us. We also, the National Archives, and more so, Amadou, you may have seen a documentary. The documentary was done on the Americans. It was basically facilitated by a former U.S. ambassador, Beatrice Walters. She was able to influence the other diplomats. And even though it was not the authentic thing from the village per se, but for present for time, they utilized personnel from our University of the West Indies. But what we want to do, Amadou, the gentleman who's on the other side there, filming this documentary, he has worked very feverishly with us. And our expectation is that in the not too distant future, we will be able to have documentaries that would relate to almost real-life situations. Amadou is quite a task for us. Sure. So we thank you, brother, and we thank the whole community at large, and our dear brother Hollis at the other end for always being there for us. Photographer extraordinary. Thank you, brother, and safe journey back to Sierra Leone, yes, until we plan to come with our big contingent from the Isle of Trinidad and Tobago, Americans. All right. God bless you.
Yes. Never surrender.
Never surrender, oh yeah. Never surrender, oh yeah.